Ruth, who spoke with calm authority and had no interest in anyone's excuses. "Don't force it," she told me the first day. "Clay remembers pressure. So did people, I thought." I reconnected with old friends. I accepted invitations I used to decline because I needed to be available. I cooked smaller meals and ate them slowly. Aaron noticed. "You seem lighter," he said once, during a phone call that lasted longer than 5 minutes for the first time in years. "I am," I said, "because I'm not carrying what isn't mine." Winter came, and with it, cracks. Claire stopped attending family gatherings where I might be present. She sent polite but distant messages through Aaron, instead of contacting me directly. When she did speak to me, her tone was careful, edged with something like resentment. "She feels judged," Aaron told me once. "I haven't said a word," I replied. "Sometimes silence feels louder than criticism," he said. "Yes," I said. "That's because it leaves room for reflection." The real shift came quietly, the way most truths do. Aaron came over one evening with takeout instead of questions. He didn't talk much at first. He just sat at the table, pushing noodles around his plate. "She keeps saying it's you or her," he said finally. Not out loud, but in the way things are framed. I set my fork down. "And what do you hear when she says that?" He hesitated. "That I'm supposed to choose," he admitted. "And what does choosing look like to you?" I asked. He looked at me then, really looked. "It looks like losing pieces of myself," he said. I didn't smile, but something inside me softened. That night, after he left, I stood by the window and watched the streetlights flicker on one by one. I wasn't winning. I wasn't losing. I was standing still for the first time in decades. And in that stillness, I could finally see who was willing to meet me there. What breaks when pressure is applied? The ultimatum didn't arrive as a sentence. It arrived as a pattern. Aaron stopped calling in the mornings. Then the evenings. When he did call, his voice sounded rehearsed, careful, as if each word had been approved before leaving his mouth. Claire didn't reach out at all. I didn't chase either of them. I had learned something essential in the months since the wedding. People reveal their truest priorities not when you ask for help, but when you stop providing it. One Saturday afternoon, I ran into Claire's mother at the grocery store. She recognized me immediately, her face lighting up with a warmth that felt almost disorienting. "Margaret!" "Oh my goodness," she said, reaching for my arm. "I was hoping I'd run into you." We stood beside the apples, their skins polished and perfect. "I just wanted to say thank you," she continued, "for everything you did for the wedding. Claire told me you stepped back because you needed rest." I felt something tighten behind my ribs. "Is that what she said?" I asked gently. Her mother nodded. "She said you'd been overwhelmed." Smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was revealing. "I wasn't overwhelmed," I said. "I was uninvited." The woman blinked. "Uninvited?" "Yes," I said. "From the rehearsal dinner and planning events." Her smile faltered. "Oh," she said softly. "I didn't know." "No," I replied. "You wouldn't." We stood there in silence for a moment. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "That shouldn't have happened." "I agree," I said. I left the store with my groceries and a strange sense of relief. The truth had escaped the room it had been kept in. I hadn't pushed it. I hadn't announced it. I'd simply stopped protecting it. 2 days later, Aaron came over unannounced. He didn't knock. He stood on the porch for a long time before finally opening the door. "She told me you embarrassed her mother," he said, the moment he stepped inside. "I told her the truth," I replied calmly. He ran a hand through his hair. "She says you're trying to turn people against her." "I'm not trying to do anything," I said. "I'm just not lying anymore." He looked exhausted. "She's angry," he said. "She says this is proof you never liked her." I met his eyes. I didn't dislike her. I disliked being erased. That seemed to hit harder than he expected. She wants an apology, he said quietly. For what? I asked. For stepping back the way you did. For making things difficult. I leaned back in my chair. And what do you want? I asked him. He hesitated too long. I want peace, he said finally. That's not an answer, I said gently. That's a wish. He slumped into the chair across from me. She says if I don't set firmer boundaries with you, she doesn't know how we can move forward, he said. There it was. Not spoken outright, but heavy in the air. If you don't choose her, she'll choose for you. I folded my hands. And what does firmer boundaries mean? I asked. He looked down. Less contact, less involvement. Involvement in what? I asked. My life, he said. I nodded. That's already happening, I said. I didn't fight it. He looked up sharply. You're not going to argue? He asked. No, I said. Because this isn't a negotiation. It's a revelation. He stared at me confused. When someone asks you to shrink your mother to prove your loyalty, I continued, they're not asking for partnership. They're asking for dominance. His jaw tightened. You make it sound so harsh, he said. It is harsh, I replied. It just doesn't sound that way when it's wrapped in the language of boundaries. Silence filled the room again. She says she won't compete with you, he said. I'm not competing, I said. I'm existing. He closed his eyes. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I do, I said softly. You tell the truth, and then you live with what it costs. He stayed a long time after that, saying very little. When he finally left, he hugged me longer this time. Not desperate, not apologetic, uncertain. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Claire, I think it's best if we take a break from communication. This dynamic isn't healthy for our marriage. I read it once. Then I placed the phone face down and turned off the light. For the first time, the chair I didn't sit in felt less like a wound, and more like a boundary I'd finally respected.